Ken, you're at Giants camp. Tell us about how Tony Vitello is learning about big league camp.
It was interesting. I attended his first media session, and he obviously is someone who has done this a long time, just not at this level. He was at Tennessee and he got asked, "Hey, is this the most reporters you've ever seen?" Or maybe 15 of us there. And he said, "No, we get covered pretty heavily at Tennessee." And one of the things that people tend to underestimate, including myself, when I look at the jump from college to the majors, is college baseball right now is at a really high level. They use analytics the way the major leagues do. They train and do all these different things that are not all that different from what we see on an everyday basis in Major League Baseball. So he comes into this, it's obviously different. One of the first things he mentioned is that he doesn't know the players as well because he didn't recruit them. He's met them now, he's talked to them in phone conversations, maybe by text, but that's a difference, right? When you're recruiting a player, you get to know him, you get to know his family, you get a real good feel. He doesn't have that yet, but he'll build it. And the word that two Giants people I spoke with today used to describe him, and they used the same word, was sharp. And if you've got someone who's sharp, who's got a lot of energy, a lot of personality, you tend to think he'll figure it out. And he also has Jace Tingler on his staff, former Major League manager. Ron Washington on his staff, former Major League manager. Dusty Baker and Bruce Bochy will be around. So he'll have people to lean on and people he can trust and have to bounce off ideas with. He should be okay, but it's going to be one of these stories that we follow all season because it is so new. And we have not seen this happen, I don't know, in 100 years or so, where a guy goes from college to the majors.
Well, you can also throw in some doom for the Nationals who have Blake Butera. Sorry, Ken, I'm just taking you literally. But the Giants, though, did they build their roster well enough to help him succeed? I mean, you can have manager this, manager that, college rah-rah. And Tony Vitello, we had him on our show, was an unbelievable interview. He gets it. He understands. He's not going into this saying, I have all the answers. He said, hey, I'm going to learn from the people around me. I have to learn a lot quickly. So did the Giants do enough this offseason with Buster Posey in charge to give him a team that can compete with the Padres, the Diamondbacks, the Dodgers, and the Rockies in his division?
That's the question. And I'm not sure the answer to that is yes. What did they do? They signed Tyler Mahle. They signed Adrian Hauser to bolster their rotation. They didn't get a top of the rotation guy. They got two guys who are pretty good. And Mahle, coming off the injury, might be really good. But could they have done more? Yes, they could have done more there. Now, to round out their position club, they signed Harrison Bader to play center field, and they feel that their outfield is going to be much better defensively this year with Jung Hoo Lee healthy, with Elliot Ramos showing a more of a committed approach to learning and mastering left field. And then they signed Luis Arraez, that became official just about an hour ago. He's going to play second base. He is hungry to establish himself as at least an average defender at second base again. And of course, he's got one of the great infield coaches of all time to work with, and that's Ron Washington. So I would have liked to have seen them do a little bit more, but remember, they made a move that if they had made it in the offseason, we'd be declaring them winners, and that was the Devers trade last June. Devers is here already. He's taken some flips from Ron Washington and his fellow coaches this morning. They're going to be okay. I don't know how good they're going to be. They're going to have to figure out their bullpen, which right now seems to be just this thing that is there, and they don't really have much definition to it. But they will. They'll find it. And do I see them as good as the Dodgers? Of course not. Do I see them as good as the Padres? Probably not. But they still can be a competitive group. And I believe the Diamondbacks are going to be a competitive team too, especially if they sign Gallen.
Could the Giants be one of the teams that's in on somebody available just because you said of their short depth in the rotation and possibly they pick up a Bassett? Probably not dealing in the Gallen sweepstakes, but that would push somebody to the bullpen, which would strengthen their bullpen. Are they still out there for that, or does their payroll say, no, we're probably capped where we're at?
I would expect that they're not going to do that, at least right away. Now, what's interesting is Verlander and Scherzer are still out there. And Scherzer, in particular, has told me that he's willing to wait until after the season starts to sign. Could Verlander be in that same situation? Possibly. And then you see what you have. The Giants do have some younger pitchers that, of course, they want to give opportunities to, but I don't see them necessarily doing much else this spring. Could be wrong, Erik, of course, but there are still a number of teams with greater urgency, greater needs in the rotation than the Giants have.
All right, Ken, it's your favorite time of the year. We're going to get to work together for the WBC. There's a thing out there about the ABS that's coming into Major League Baseball this year. Are the catchers really at a disadvantage because they have to go miss that 2 weeks possibly for if you make a deep run because they're not going to be with their team in spring training and they're not going to, but most of them saw this last year, right? Did they not see it? Most of these guys see this last year? Maybe they're missing out on some strategy on this, but I don't know if this is a huge deal that we're trying to make it into.
I don't know that anybody's trying to make it into a huge deal, AJ, but we're talking about it. Ideally, would you rather be in camp for ABS and to talk strategy and to go through it all for those 2 weeks you're going to miss if you're a major league catcher? Yes. But we're also talking about the elite catchers in the game, right? Cal Raleigh, Will Smith. Yes, they're going to figure it out, and I don't expect it to be a problem. It's not necessarily ideal, as I said, but these guys are really smart. They know what they're doing, and this is something I'm sure they've been preparing for already. And obviously, it's not the same as catching pitches with the system and all that. I get it. But the thought process is all of that, they're going to be fine.
Ken, I know you touched on some of this, but wanted to get your thoughts on where you think the Astros are at with Isaac Paredes. And I know this is a guy who could be a valuable member of their team, but it does feel like he's I don't want to say odd man out, but the guy that's maybe most easy to trade. And they did lose some suitors over the last 24 hours, but fans are asking if there's going to be any trade activity over the next several days. And that's the name that I came up with that I guess could still be moved around somewhere, right?
That situation still has to resolve. And I know the Astros have said, oh, we can carry both Christian Walker and Isaac Paredes into spring training. Well, how are you going to do that exactly? I mean, they can carry him to spring training. I meant into the season. There's just not enough at bats, not enough playing time around. You got Yordan Alvarez. He's a DH. So I still expect something to happen there, but you're right, Scott. They lost the suitor with the Red Sox, who, of course, acquired Caleb Durbin, and that would seem to be their move. It doesn't seem that they're going to flip some of the guys that they acquired, including Durbin, to the Astros for Paredes. That's not happening from what I understand. And then the Pirates, another team that has been in, and they're a team that just spent $12 million on Marcell Ozuna. They might not have another $10 million or so for Paredes. So I know there are other teams in the mix. The Astros have said, and Chandler Rome of our network has said that they have other teams involved. I believe Chandler wrote in The Athletic that there were 5 teams involved. Well, if there are 5 teams involved, the Red Sox and Pirates aren't as strong as they were. There's still 3 others. So I still expect something to happen. Timing, I can't tell you, but it just seems to me that he has a lot of value. He's got a couple of years of control, and he's a guy that people want. So given that, and given Christian Walker's low trade value right now, he is, as you said, Scott, the odd man out. And I do expect before opening day, he's going to be in another uniform.
All right, this is not power rankings. Who do you think improved the most this offseason? Because now pitchers and catchers are here. There's no more like nobody else can improve. I'm kidding. Obviously, everybody can still improve. But who did the best? Who did, in your mind, who did the best?
The White Sox come to mind. Now, granted, they're starting from almost zero in some ways, but they made some interesting moves. Murakami, of course, being the most interesting of all. I felt the Orioles have done well, and throughout the offseason, they've added here and there. They still want to do one more starting pitching or one more starting pitcher. So I would include them as well. Other teams, I like what the Red Sox have done, but I'm curious to see how it plays out. They've certainly done a lot, and they've done it without trading any top prospects. I still wonder, as a lot of people are wondering, whether they're going to have enough power. Durbin is a guy who, in Fenway, because he pulls the ball and in the air, might be a pretty good hitter, might be even a 20-homer guy, but he hasn't been that in the big leagues yet. He was first-year player last year. So that's one question I have with them. I like what Seattle has done. with the bullpen, Ferrer, and then, of course, getting Donovan. A number of teams look like they're going to be improved. And people were saying, well, what about the Mets? The Mets are going to be different. I just don't know how much better they're going to be. They're a lot different, and they're going to be a fascinating team to watch. It's just, how good are they actually going to be?
Breaking news. Not Kratz. Ken hates the Mets. So just make sure that we put that out there. Okay? It's not Kratz.
Hates the Mets,
It's Ken.
hates this, hates that, hates everybody else.
You hate life, Ken. We can't. We try to cheer you up every time you come on, and it hasn't worked.
He looks happy at spring training camp.
True. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe you just
he's
need
outside.
You know what? Next offseason, instead of just sitting around, you should fly to Winter Ball and just cover that for that way. You'll be happy the whole
Maybe
year.
I will be if it's a lockout.
That makes me happy.
Yes, we could do Korea games like they did that one year. You could do the Korea games. You could do them at 4
I'll be
a.m.
there.
I'll probably be sleeping. But, Ken, that wasn't my question. You brought up the Red Sox as a team. And today was, there's some things out there. But I want to know this name. And we haven't heard a lot about this name. Tristan Casas. Is he on the Red Sox? Is he going to – because they have Wilson Contreras. It's not like they didn't go out and get a first baseman basically to replace him. And this guy has been hype for the Red Sox. Skit for the Red Sox. But he gets hurt every year. Is he going to be on the team? Is he going to be a player that they can count on for production?
I don't know how much playing time he's going to get. And certainly someone to look at spring training, see what he is or where he is health-wise and take it from there. You could always send him back. It wouldn't be the end of the world to do that. And he'd be obviously protection. And if he shows really well in spring training, I guess you could trade him too. I'm not exactly sure what the plans are for him. And you're right, he's kind of a forgotten man because he has gotten hurt and has had those problems and faded off the radar, so to speak, while Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer and Christian Campbell have all come to the fore for Boston in varying degrees of success. So I'm not exactly sure, AJ, what the answer to that is. Part of the reason for spring training is to find out answers to some of these questions. And it's interesting. I was thinking about this morning. Joel Sherman of the New York Post wrote about it today. There are a number of younger players, and I guess you could maybe even put Casas in this group. Brett Beatty with the Mets, Matt Shaw with the Cubs, Casey Schmidt right here with the Giants, and maybe Casas too. They're younger guys who have kind of been squeezed out of regular roles. What do teams do with them? Do they keep them for depth? Do they trade them? How do they go about it? That's going to be an underlying storyline of the spring.
We found out from Jim yesterday, an article that he wrote, Jim Bowden, that his routine is he buys an expensive pair of sunglasses and some SPF 60 sunblock. What's Ken's routine every spring training? And how many spring trainings? Do you know how many spring trainings this is for you now?
I do, Eric, and it's a big number, and I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but this is number 40. And
wow.
There's not a particular routine I have. I did start young, not as young as I would like to have started, but no, I started young. I don't really have a routine. I just enjoy it. It's interesting to me. What makes it so fun for me, and I experienced this morning again. All winter long, I'm on the phone with people. I'm not seeing people in person for the most part, except at maybe the winter meetings. And even there, you don't really see people in person. And here this morning, I'm talking to players again, talking to executives in person. It's a huge difference. It's one of the things I treasure most about my job. And that to me is the thing that stands out every spring. I'm always so excited just to see everybody again.